Welcome to PSYCOW. I'm Kyle.
Stacy.
And this week we have a god. Or goddess. I should say goddess. Adrienne King joins us from Friday the 13th, the first survivor.
Yes, the ultimate survivor and probably the nicest lady I've ever talked to in my lifetime.
Yes, she's so comforting, and it was just like so easy to talk with her. I mean, it felt like I don't even know how to describe it. It was awesome.
This whole entire interview, literally, there is a huge smile on my face the whole entire time.
Right.
It's just so great. She was amazing, so...
We got to meet, I guess over Skype, we got to talk to the person who lopped off Betsy Palmer's head.
Peace out, Betsy.
With her hairy knuckles. So without further ado, this show, one of my favorites because she's just a huge staple in my childhood. Friday the 13th defined my childhood. That and Halloween and Freddy Krueger. So those three, and I'm speaking with the person who killed Jason's mom.
Who made him so angry.
Yes, you made Jason angry and you filled that void in my childhood. So without further ado, Adrienne King. How did you get into acting?
Well, that's a story in itself. My first commercial was at 6 months old. So, obviously I didn't have a whole lot to say about it,
Right.
but obviously it worked because, except for, I think, first and second grade, I've worked my entire life in the business. So everything that happened prior to first grade, I guess I enjoyed enough to ask, please let me go back for more. When I went back for more in third grade, my mom was like tired of being a stage mother. But she did say, she was encouraging, and that's really what it was. I grew up on Long Island. I grew up in New York, think Lindsay Lohan before Entourage. I just grew up in the business in New York City, and I enjoyed it, and that's how I started.
Were you a horror fan growing up?
Actually, I loved horror movies, but they were the kind I went to see back in the day. I would grab my brother and my sister, and we'd go see at Saturday afternoon, and you could see all afternoon for God knows how much it was, maybe $1. And the old Universal horror movies, and they'd replay them. And then the Joan Crawford, Betty Davis type horror movies. I loved those kind of things. They were just so wicked. And when I got to college, when The Exorcist came out, that one did me in. I think after The Exorcist, I probably didn't see a horror movie. Actually, I can tell you, I didn't see a horror movie. And then I auditioned for Friday. I didn't see Halloween before Friday. I did Friday the 13th. So, and I don't think I saw Carrie either. I think I saw Carrie and Halloween, kind of everything after I did the first Friday, because after working with Tom Savini, I couldn't wait to see what I could figure out on screen after getting to work with a maestro like that,
I adore Tom Savini. He's one of my lifelong idols. I've followed his career since I was a kid.
Yeah, he's pretty special. Incredibly talented.
Absolutely. Well, how did you get the role for Alice on Friday?
I auditioned with every other actress in New York City in 1979. And that is the truth. They went to LA, the rumor goes, and looked and didn't find what they needed. And they came to New York and hooked up with Barry Moss and Julie Hughes, who are consummate casting directors, New York Broadway casting directors that are still there going strong, obviously knew their craft, and they knew basically everybody in the city that was working, that was a working actor. Up to that time, I had done all my little, running around and studying with whoever was the best at the time that you could get into their classes, and doing lots of off Broadway and off Broadway. And then, seriously, I didn't even have a theatrical agent at the time. I only had a commercial agent. So do you know how that works, guys? Do you
Yes.
know? Okay. So I was not submitted by an agent. So I went to an open call that was in Backstage, which is, the actor's right-hand guide. Back in the day it was anyway. We didn't have laptops and we didn't have iPhones to check things, it was
Right.
such a different world. So I went to an open call and was like number 300 and something, probably 313. And I got called back and I got called back and I got called back. And then I got to meet with, all the heavy duty people and Sean and Barry Moss and everybody was so encouraging. And they actually knew that they wanted me to be one of the girls. They didn't know which one of the girls, because they were playing with all the guys too. So they'd have me come back and read with, Kevin Bacon and Harry Crosby and Mark Nelson and whoever else was there for callbacks. And then I got a screen test for Alice, and I obviously nailed it. It was quite an intense screen test, and I remember crawling on the floor and screaming and all that stuff. But the good news is later that day I got a phone call from Sean, and he told me I was his Alice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it went on for weeks, though. It literally took the summer of before we we started shooting the Tuesday after Labor Day, and casting took probably all of July and probably up to the 3 weeks into August, because we were right down to the wire.
Well, obviously Friday became a huge big deal because, there's so many sequels and, there's comic books for it and everything. Did you think that it would blow up into the sensation that it is today?
It all depends. It all depends if it was distributed the same way it was. To me, that was as much to do with the incredible sensation of the summer of '80 that it was, because it just didn't stop running. It was long before you guys were born, but I still remember that when it opened on that Friday in 1980, I believe it was, the 13th, May the 13th, and it kept on going all summer and got bigger and bigger audiences. And there were lines. I lived in New York City, so I couldn't go anywhere without seeing lines wrapped around the corner for my movie. And it was just the most incredible thing that you could possibly imagine. And it just, by Labor Day, it was still playing at some of the theaters, which, if you see movies right now, if they make it more than 2 weeks in a movie theater, that's pretty good. The way his name was Frank Mancuso, ran distribution for Paramount, and he just rolled it out bigger than any other movie they'd had. He firmly believed this movie was going to be a hit, and he did everything he could by opening it in, like, God knows, so many theaters that hadn't been done before. So he's the brains behind it, and his son actually was the fellow who produced Part 2.
Ah.
Yeah, Frank Jr.
What was it like working with Sean Cunningham?
Sean Cunningham, he was wonderful. He was a best friend to me on the, he's still a good, an absolute wonderful man. He's still in my life. We see each other every so often. And, he was just, you're giving gifts in life, and Sean, in that movie, knowing that it was truly my first leading role in anything of significance. I'd done a lot of little things before, but nothing like carrying or supporting a movie of this grandiose fashion. And he gave me, he trusted me, and I trusted him. And needless to say, it really comes across on screen. There are certain scenes where one take was all was needed. And, mistakes and all, we kept them in, and that's what makes the movie, I think, so real in so many places.
I know the one mistake that I don't really call it a mistake. I love it. You were talking about Tom Savini, and then, the whole ending, with Miss Voorhees and her head. And I remember watching Tom Savini talk about how it was held together with toothpicks. And you can see, hairy knuckles come up for her hands. I thought that was awesome. I never noticed it before till they pointed it out.
Oh my God. And there's so many other things. I don't know if you've been on my website or not, but I have this limited edition poster that I only created, I think it was like 7 years ago now, when I first moved to the boonies of Oregon. I had my own art studio, and Sean, when we did that scene, that night, we started as the sunset, and it was probably, until October, so it was damn cold. And then we didn't finish that scene on the beach with the machete until the sun rose the next morning. And everything you saw on that film, in that fight scene was real. I mean, there's no stunt people in the first movie. There's nothing that's not real except for Tom's hairy knuckles and weren't Betsy's hairy knuckles. But crazy, I remember Sean wrote down the notes, the actual notes to choreograph that scene, his director's notes. I found them when I moved up here in a box that was taped up for over 25 years with all the stuff. If you see all those Polaroids on my website, those are all behind the scenes, Polaroids that I share with my fans. And I found all my rings, all my jewelries, my boots, my jeans, and inside the jeans pocket were those 13 notes. Get it? There were 13 notes, 20 notes to Sean. And he tossed them away that morning as the sun was rising, and I was walking away all bloodied, and Betsy's like, "Come on, leave the garbage alone." And I'm saying, "Betsy, this film may not be ever seen by anyone except for us. Do you realize that?" Because we kept on running out of money. So I made a poster for Sean and me, and that was it. And Sean was the one who said, "Make it for the fans. They can see the money. They can see the money in the movie. It's right there," because that's the only kind of money we had. It was just on the film. And he said that way they can freeze frame it, see it through my eyes. And that's the only piece of Friday the 13th art that Sean has hanging up in his office.
That's awesome.
Yeah, if you ever saw, his name was Jason, the documentary, it's behind him in his office. So to me, that was the first time that my art and my acting came together in one moment. It was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And so that poster I created, and it's a limited number, and there's still some left. But the thing is, it's just, who would have thunk, because really at that point in time, we didn't even think we'd finish the movie.
That's awesome. I've been on your website numerous times, so I'm gonna go check that out. So I'm gonna try to get one.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, the story is all written down there too, and there's a lot I left out, but it's quite amazing how it all, I came to have all this stuff, these many decades later.
Right.
Right. Did they know from the beginning that they wanted to do a franchise?
I would say absolutely not. They wanted to make a movie that would afford them to pay their mortgage for the next year.
Right.
Essentially, low budget filmmakers, you're just looking to finish that movie. And a lot of times filmmakers never even get to post, And, no, they just wanted to make a movie that was going to make money. And, Sean is very, very, honest about that fact. It had nothing to do with being brilliantly creative in the film world. He just wanted to knock something out of the park, and he sure did.
Definitely. And were you excited to come back for Friday the 13th Part 2?
No, I wasn't. Well, no. The reason being is I had a stalker. Which is all that information's on my website too. I don't talk that much about it because most people do know.
Right.
Right.
I shared that originally. And it's not that right now. It's almost like, wow, full circle, get it. Okay, the stalker was part of the whole deal. Okay, got it. And
Right.
And now it's kind of interesting because a lot of my survival instincts that Alice had them, Adrienne not quite as much, and she developed them after that, after my own experience. And now I always wondered, why did I have to go through that now that I have 3 generations of fans around the world, and I get these letters and I hear these stories from people that I've touched or my character has touched at conventions or emails, it makes so much sense to me because I'm able to, for some reason why I don't know, but I'm able to help people realize that it gets better, and I'm almost the poster child for a survivalist now, and if I can share any of that, because Lord knows I'm living a great, wonderful, peaceful life in the boonies here, and I just want everyone out there to know, no matter how bad it gets, because it got bad for me, but no matter how bad it gets, it does get better, and you just have to hang in there and trust that it will.
Definitely, and that's a big part of horror movies as well. A lot of people might not see it that way, but at the same time, there's a lot of, that survivor instinct and seeing these, especially for me, women, be the lead and the survivors. That's a big deal, and thank you for pulling that off.
Stacey, thank you for acknowledging that, because it's like I said, who would have ever thought back in the day? Because we were, if I can explain this in any way, when I had my stalker, police actually and FBI, like, there were no laws against stalking for at least 7 years, and they would actually look at you like, well, what do you expect? You started in a horror movie.
Right.
Like, seriously? People didn't look upon actresses kindly back in that day. It was like one step above a horror movie as opposed to a horror movie. And now to think that Bennett Fright Rags actually had a poster done where the first Final Four women signed it, and he gave like all the a huge portion of poster to our favorite women's, helping women against being victimized, and Amy Steele and I and the Kim, and we all got to pick our charities, and to get something so positive out of something that initially was just so people looked down upon us at times, and now for that all to have been turned into something positive, and women, like you said, Stacey, gathering strength from not being a victim and from being able to survive.
Right.
It's just more than amazing.
Right. And I was going to ask you about the Fright Rags, because I love the guys at Fright Rags. They're all great people, Ben and Christy and Tim. And I saw the poster, and it's absolutely amazing. And I was going to ask you if you're excited to be part of that, because I was excited that they chose Friday the 13th for that.
More than excited. I really, like I said, it's just become such a full circle and such a positive light on something that was always taken so negatively. And even people, you've got your conservative people that are running these shelters and everything, and it's like even they have to go, oh, maybe we have the horror genre wrong. And it's like, yeah, maybe you do, because because we're doing positive stuff, and look at Scares That Care,
Yes.
It's like, just because you don't agree with us or perhaps our line of entertainment doesn't mean you shouldn't admire us for what we're doing.
Yeah, that's what I don't get, because if you go back to any of our interviews we have some people that are just independent filmmakers who make some really vile movies, but they're the nicest people in the world. They're just making their form of what they call their art. And I think, that's something to be appreciated.
Absolutely, and you don't have to necessarily subscribe to it.
Right.
We don't force you to watch horror movies, but at the same time, I don't think it deserves the negative connotation it gets. And I always try to explain to people who don't get it, and I've really given up on them. But I used to say, just imagine going on a roller coaster ride, and then knowing at the end you're safe. I mean, essentially, people go, oh, okay, sure. And then if you don't get it, you don't get it. So I don't try anymore.
Well, we brought up part 2 and your brief appearance in it. I can't get over the fact that they killed you off in the very beginning.
Yeah, I didn't finish that, Kyle, and I transgressed, but But yeah, Stacey had asked me about part 2. I wasn't, because I was dealing with this, a stalker. I wasn't excited about part 2, and it was supposed to be open ended. That was the thing. And actually, if you look at it, it could still be construed that way. It was supposed to be a nightmare within a nightmare, or a nightmare within a dream within a nightmare. And if you want, I can give you a couple of for instances.
Sure, because I mean, my view on it was, how did Jason get a plane ticket to wherever you are, carry around his mom's head, and put it in your fridge? And I was like, and then he went back to Crystal Lake to kill some more kids. I didn't get it.
Yeah, exactly. Did he have the phone book with him when he called the cab?
Right. How did he know where to find you? Like, I don't know. I don't feel like he knows how to use resources very much.
Yeah. I mean, it's a real stretch. And then you go, okay, would Alice really be caught dead, being the fashionista she was? Would she be caught dead in that ugly green maternity? I mean, seriously. She was an artist.
Of the movie.
Yeah. The fact of the matter was, they only used me for one day, because they were trying to accommodate me. I was trying to accommodate them. I would have done anything they needed for the continuity of part 2. I'm a fan. I was a huge fan of the first movie. I loved it. Everyone loved it. What was wrong was the fact that they decided to do it very, very quickly, and it was at the end of the other, the whole shoot for the movie. I was the last day, so it was on a weekend. I was up there by myself. I didn't see anybody else, and we shot again one night from sunset to sunrise, and basically everybody left except me and a very small crew. So when we did that scene with the ice pick, the actual props guy, or whoever's supposed to check those things, wasn't around. And so I can't remember really who did it, but they didn't test it first. And so that ice pick did not retract the first time it went in. Not really fun, not fun. And so they actually had to aim for the hole in my face on the second one.
Oh.
So, yeah. You didn't know that, did you?
No.
And also, like I said, the stuff that we didn't even have a wardrobe fitting. And that's why I think the stuff that was there was so huge, in a robe with a tie, because anybody could fit into it. So, it was kind of like one of those last minute things. Okay, let's just do anything that might work. And that's really what it is.
They needed an opening.
Yeah, just to get, and like I said, if they ever wanted to, they could always go back to the dream within the nightmare. But I just don't know what they're going to do for the fans. We've got, the 13th coming up in September, and it's 2013, and I was really hoping they'd do something nice for the fans and kind of wrap it up in some way. But unless you've heard of anything, I haven't.
I'll tell you the perfect way to do it. A survival girl movie. I think Alice, Jenny, and Tina would be the perfect trio. And then I think Jason should die for good and never come back in any movie ever, because they're ruining him.
Yes, please.
And there's this whole underground movement going on with the fans about doing a fan film and the whole thing. But unfortunately, Friday the 13th is just so wound up, I think, in legalities between Paramount and New Line and Warner Brothers. I think that's the reason it's having a hard time finding its way to surface. And, you've really got to find somebody who loves the franchise, I suppose, enough to really consider the future in terms of, okay, we can include the new fans from the reimagining film, but we have to also remember about the diehard fans who are responsible for keeping this alive, hoping that at some point their questions will be answered.
Right. I that was my next question. What did you think about the remake? Because to me, Stacey and I, just growing up on movies, we're not really we don't want to go into the movie thinking that it's going to be terrible, but remakes in general just aren't for us, because we grew up on the originals, and I don't want to go into a Friday the 13th movie just seeing a whole bunch of TV stars running around from a Jason who runs around and does the opposite of what he should be doing. What did you think of the remake?
I haven't seen the entire thing.
There we go. Answer.
I've seen bits and pieces, and I love Derek Mears personally. That's all I can say.
Right.
You
Nothing.
know what I'm saying? And I'm happy that it brought a new audience. I guess it gave a little, a new group of people a sensation, perhaps, of Friday the 13th. But I honestly don't think it did the fans any justice.
No, because the first whole film was summed up in the opening credits.
Under 5 minutes,
Right.
and yeah, it didn't really do anything. Let's just put it this way. I have had less than 1% of the fans that come up to see me at conventions say that they enjoyed it. And that other 1%, when they tell me they loved it, I say, great, I'm so happy,
Right. Well, I mean, and it turned them on to Fridays, and then maybe they'll go back and watch the originals.
Exactly. And then they said, and then I went and watched yours, and I said, well, that's great. And that's the good thing about it. But I truly, just for the sake of everyone, like I said, 3 generations globally, that I'm always just beside myself when I think about it and hear from people around on the other side of the world that ask me questions about when are we going to have the answers, and I can't tell them,
Right.
I wish I could. I'd love to be able to wrap this puppy up.
Well, the times are a little messed up too. I mean, like the third one I think is technically Saturday the 14th, but I mean it's just part of the horror movie franchise. You just go with it and you enjoy the movie.
Yeah, and I'm just hoping somebody will step out of the wings some days, who's a young filmmaker who really has a love for the Friday the 13th films and do it justice.
I'll do it. I will take those reins.
Thank you, Kyle Myers. Thank you.
I'm a filmmaker. I will take those reins and I will make the perfect Friday the 13th movie.
You go for it. You go for it. I wish you well. I'm there. I'm there for you. How's that?
It's going to be an uphill battle, I think.
Without a doubt.
Yes.
Without a doubt. But I'm sure you'll find a lot of other young filmmakers are out there to support you, and maybe between all of you can get it made.
Right. We'll start a chip-in account. We'll make our own movie.
Really, we could just start. If we could maybe do it under a, I don't know. Maybe we'll do it without actually saying it's Friday the 13th.
Right. His original name was Josh. We'll just call him Josh.
There you go. And, we can, the 3 survivor women have probably changed their names,
Right.
I know Alice, is laying low in the deep woods, painting, doing some sculpture and drinking fine wine. So she is more than happy to come back.
Somewhere out there in Oregon, Alice is sitting.
Yes.
She is.
I was going to ask you, you have a very fond love of art and creating paintings and everything. Is there anything particular you love to paint? I
do. Very interestingly, I've always been a nature lover and painter, and one of my most famous paintings is actually Alice in Canoes, sold in a London gallery called Misty Moon Gallery in London last April for quite a substantial sum. And so I've been able to incorporate some of the Friday the 13th visual images with things I love to paint, which is always water. Water and trees have always been my thing. So imagine, if you will, it's not too far a stretch to throw a canoe in there.
Well, do you have but
I'm definitely not. I'm sorry, Stacey. What was that?
Oh, no, you're fine. I was going to say, do you have a big inspiration for art? Was there anything that led you to art?
I've always been an artist, and if my mom wasn't a frustrated, stage mother or a frustrated actress, whatever, herself, I think I might have gone my own way into. I have a fine arts scholarship from FIT in New York City. I got my scholarship from FIT in fine arts, so that is without a doubt my calling, but. Acting has always been something that came easily to me, and they do cross over. So my first memories, honestly, were painting and drawing on the set. Those were my first. So I've always done the same thing. I've always been acting or painting or one or the other if I wasn't doing one or the other. So, it's interesting now that if you go to my website, you can see my paintings, and I paint where I am. So back during the early 80s, when I was art was my therapy when I was trying to get through the stalking stuff, which went on for way too long. And so back in those days, you really didn't talk about it. It was frowned upon. So I have a lot of dark art, which is truly my biggest seller because people are, it's not. When I went to FIT, I had lots of nature, but it wasn't dark and it wasn't deep. It was just nice and pretty. And my art now is anything but nice and pretty. So I think it's nature with a true expressionist, impressionist spin, and usually there's some darkness somewhere.
Definitely. I have a big respect for anybody that paints because that's what my boyfriend does for a living, and I watch him paint, and I can tell just by looking at him that's exactly what he loves to do.
Oh wow, yeah, it's truly a passion. It's a calling, and it's something that I paint into the earliest hours of the night morning without thinking about it. You know, my husband will come down to my studio and check on me.
Yeah.
But normally he'll bring me a glass of wine. He's like you. He's very supportive.
Yes.
And he knows when you're in the zone, you know, just leave me alone.
Exactly. He's the same exact way. I know not to go around him when he's painting. He'll be painting until 8 o'clock in the morning, and it's just
that's it.
His thing. Yeah.
Me too. I was born. This is pretty funny, but I was born on a Friday at 4:20 in the morning.
Oh.
And that's in Brooklyn, thank you. So I got all these very cool things going on, you know. But the fact of the matter is, I'm not a morning person, and I think the fact that I was born early in the morning has something to do with that.
Right.
I'll paint through the early morning, but don't ask me to wake up in it.
He's the same way. Don't wake up. Yeah.
Exactly. So, Stacy, are you a writer then?
No, I went to school. I've been to school once before, and I studied basically film, and I just kind of I didn't really know what I wanted to do with that exactly, and I did like the script writing and everything like that, but I found that kind of just wasn't my thing. I was more of a behind the scenes type person working with the camera and working with equipment and not really like the technical writing part of it. But
right.
I love film and everything, but then I decided to go back to school and study more of the medicine aspect of things, and I'm absolutely loving it right now.
Ah, very interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I always thought about, horror and blood, if you can basically, remove yourself from it. So
right.
I'm guessing that's kind of the deal, right?
Definitely. And I thought about it too. I was like, what are two things I absolutely love? And I was like, well, number one, I love horror movies, and I can watch the most gruesome thing happen and it won't even faze me. So then I thought about it. I was like, well, there's got to be something in the medical field you can do. And I thought, surgery. And honestly, the first surgery I sat in, I absolutely loved it. I thought it was absolutely amazing, everything that was going on around me.
You know what's funny about that is that I do the same thing. I can focus on anyone. I can witness a surgery, anything like that. But I had a biopsy done to myself, and I almost passed out because I found out that if it's happening to you, it's not as great.
Yeah. That's the truth, isn't it?
Definitely.
I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah, I never felt like that before. I almost passed out. My fiance's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "I have never felt like this. This never bothered me before, but it's my leg now."
I'm hoping it was benign.
Yes.
This is a good thing.
Well, jumping back to you though, you took a break from acting and getting on the main screen, I guess, but you did some voice acting. What led you to want to do some behind the scenes voice acting and everything?
It was just the evolving of trying to keep all of my creativity focused in acting, but not wanting to be on camera. And I'll tell you how that came about if you want to know.
Absolutely.
So after realizing that after the whole stalking thing, and it was just too weird, and so I auditioned for the London Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts and was accepted, and and did some lovely Shakespeare in London and on the Banbrigg stage. And London is my second home, and that's why I have so many fans. And I have Misty Moon Gallery repping my art over there, and it's my second home. And so I was there for a while and came back to the States, and my agent submitted me for a recurring role on All My Children, which I nailed, and I got it. And it was Dr. Hoberman on All My Children, and all you people are going to go, oh my God, I didn't know that. Well, that's because I was only, as it happened, I was very good in the screen test, but in the wings, as I was supposed to go on and do my scene, my heart started pounding so hard, it almost broke through my chest, and I broke out into this incredible sweat. And like I said before, acting had always come so easily. It was nothing. Acting was not acting for me. It was just normal. And it wasn't a big deal. And this was the first time I had a problem. And ... My agent and I did some therapy and decided, hey, this isn't working. Obviously, we have a problem being seen. And I thought had taken care of it, but obviously there were still some issues. And so my agent said to me, you know what, we're going to groom you for voiceovers. And I'd already done a bunch of voiceovers. It was all part of, working in the industry and doing commercials. So it wasn't a big jump for me. And then I got into looping, which was the end all and the gift to every actor out there. You can go in with no makeup, no makeup, no hair. That sounds weird, but that's how they say it. No makeup, no hair, no wardrobe, and just have the most fun in the world improving if you're good at it. And it just means that you have to be able to look at the screen, see it once, and then put your mouth, your words, your dialogue into their mouth without missing a beat. And some people can and some people can't. And I was lucky I could do it. And I could do lots of accents. I could do lots of ages. So you get hired for looping on films. And like I said, it's the best gig because you actually get residuals from those films like you were on camera. So needless to say, it was the nicest little gift to me during the 80s and 90s. And I did 7 years on Melrose Place. If you go on my website, I've done over 100 really nice films like Titanic. I did The Last Breath. Would you ever think of they would have to loop A Last Breath? I did The Last Breath in that movie. Every time you see that movie now, you remember that old lady's breath. That's me.
And I watch it.
And not only that, but I can scream in all foreign languages.
Oh, that's awesome.
Just one.
You name it. I can nail a scream in any language.
Oh, let's do German.
Aqua!
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
Well, make your on-screen debut or return with a Psychic Experiment. What brought you to that film?
Oh, wow. That's a whole story. Another whole story. When I did up to that point, let's see, that was 2008. So I'd been back doing conventions maybe for a couple of years, not a whole lot, just here and there, just figuring it out, just enjoying the questions. And every other question was, when are you going to come back and do another film? And having shared the stalking thing was huge closure for me. And I was eager to actually find a good script and come back for my fans, and was looking for scripts. And a writer by the name of Ted Gagan in New York said Millhouse in Dallas has a script and he'd really love to get it to you. And I said, sure, send it. Read it, and it was a dynamite script. And I really when I saw the character, it was written for a man, but they offered it to me as a woman, and I actually saw Hillary Clinton as the character that I would be,
It's so funny because the first thing I thought of when I saw it was that you could be a president or vice president character. You were stern and intimidating.
And I really wanted that. I thought to myself, this would be a great role to come back in and really kick some butt. Mel was a great writer and director, and then Lionsgate got in and edited the wazoo out of this thing. And unfortunately, it didn't end up as great as it could have. They edited me in the middle of scenes, in the middle of a breath, for God's sakes. And they left so much of the story out. Uh-oh. Hold on.
No problem.
Take me off your calling list, please. Thank you so much. That was an 800 number. Yeah. Where was I?
You were talking about the editing.
Yeah, not a big fan of the final because it was a great script. It was truly a great script, and the way the movie, the way it came out, not so great. But that just shows you how incredibly spoiled I was on Friday the 13th. Here was my first movie, and boom, right out of the gate, it was just,
Right.
Not a piece of that film was left on the floor. I swear, not a piece of that film was left on the floor. It was all up there, and unfortunately, they just clipped the shit out of Psychic Experiment, which was originally called Walking Distance. They changed everything about it,
I think Walking Distance has such a better title too to me.
Well, and it goes back to they wanted a hook, and the lady.
Right.
Stars in Psychic Experiment. She was actually in Walking Distance before Psychic Experiment came out because that was laying low for about 5 years after they made it, I think.
Gotcha.
And that's the one thing about this genre. You just never know what's going to hit.
Right.
You just never know. And so they were, they cashed in on that. And that's what distributors are supposed to do. So they did what they were supposed to do. But unfortunately, at the unfortunate aspect of the film,
Well, I also know that you're going to, it hasn't come out yet, I don't believe, but Silent Night, Bloody Night has another one coming out called Homecoming, and I'm looking forward to that because I love holiday-themed horror movies. What else in the future? Are you going to be in a whole bunch more movies? Are you back for good, or are you?
Yeah, no. I'm actually winding down.
Oh.
I'm totally winding down. We have this lovely place on the river, and I was away way too much last year. I did that Bloody Night, Silent Night, Bloody Night in London, as a matter of fact, which was so much fun. And I love I just love doing little bits and pieces here and there, on films. And the one that I'm really excited about is the Edgar Allan Poe movie. Have you seen this month's Fangoria yet?
Not yet. I haven't. My bookstore is like 30 minutes away that carries it, so I always have to sporadically go out.
No worries. Mine is too, and I haven't seen it yet, but I've been getting a lot of feedback from it. So they have this whole article, and it's supposed to be wonderful. About Edgar Allan Poe's movie that's done right now by Bart Mastronardi. Bart Mastronardi is the director and writer, and Michael Varrati is the writer. And they did The Telltale Heart with Debbie Rochon, and that one's already winning tons of things at film festivals. And the third, it's 3 pieces. It's a trilogy, and it's a wraparound. And so they've talked about, Fangoria has actually interviewed me and Mike Gingold over there. Wonderful Mike Gingold came down to the set. We shot it at the high school in Queens before Sandy hit, back in November and April, or was it October and August. And it's called Dreams, based on the poem Dreams. All that we see and seems is but a dream within a dream. And he's written this incredible story, and Amy Steele's in it too.
Oh.
Yeah. And, oh my goodness, there's just such a wonderful cast. And the cast of the Amontillado is the middle story. So one by one, they're coming out, and I play the Queen of Dreams.
I absolutely love The Telltale Heart as a kid. That was, obviously, if you're a horror fan, you love Edgar Allan Poe. But yeah, Telltale Heart.
I did too, Kyle. Do you know, I remember in 5th grade checking out Edgar Allan Poe and reading The Telltale Heart. I love that.
That story stuck with me so much, and my fiance in college, she just graduated, but before that, she did a class for literature. She's like, I need Edgar Allan Poe book. I was like, which one? I have like 3 collections. You can use them all.
Yeah, no, he's brilliant. He's absolutely brilliant, and mad, which is very helpful in the horror genre.
Yes.
And and Bart Mastronardi, like I said, he came and actually spoke to Amy and I at a Monster Mania convention in Baltimore, which is the way, if young filmmakers, let me tell you this one, if you've got a story, if you've got a script, if you've got an idea and you're serious about it and you have some film work, call us ahead of time, email us. We're very approachable, which is, what you were saying about the genre, very approachable. And, a lot of times there's something that makes sense. And so we saw what he had in a rough cut for Telltale Heart. It was so brilliant that we both signed on that moment. Honestly, I truly believe that this is why I can wind down, because when I tell you that, first of all, our segment Dreams is a silent film, which in itself is brilliant.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Yeah. And with Amy's narration of the poem. And it's just so deep and macabre, and the cinematography is just so fabulous that if I can hang my hook on this and say thank you, world, thank you, fans, I finally did you justice. And that's truly what I'm hoping for. I just believe that you're going to be wowed by Dreams and by it's called Edgar Allan Poe's. Oh, what's the whole movie called though? Bart's going to shoot me for this one. Tales of Poe. That's what it's called. Tales of Poe.
Now, when does that come out? Do you know?
I'm thinking maybe this October would be lovely.
I can't wait. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, right now, keep your eyes open for the Telltale Heart, because that's is winning a lot of, local film fests and whatever. So it might come to your neighborhood, So keep an eye out for that if you have horror film festivals in your world. And, oh my goodness, it's quite, I'm very excited about this film. Yes. And so I'm eager to see Fangoria's article, because I think they talk about that. And I think there's photos in it of me and Bart and the Queen of Dreams and riveting stuff like, and then I think he talks about Crystal Lake wines. So I'm very excited about it.
I think that was our next question, was Crystal Lake wines.
Yep.
I keep looking at them, and I eventually am going to buy one because I personally love wine.
Right.
Is there a suggestion as to which one I should go for? Because I like white wine.
Well, absolutely. This is so phenomenal, though. You have to understand, we came up here to retire, and here I am busier than I've ever been before. But I've always been a wine lover, and was fortunate enough to grow up in a family that, educated their kids on wine. And, by the time I got into the real world, I was drinking lovely wine, and moved up here and found out it was becoming the new Napa and Sonoma. Sunset Magazine actually outed us 2 years ago. So it's a burgeoning wine country. But seriously, with the global warming, the area that I'm in didn't used to be known for Pinots. Now they are, but it was always known as wine country. In the late 1800s, a Renaissance fellow by the name of Peter Britt moved here and had like 50 varietals growing in this area of Oregon. But Prohibition totally wiped them all out. So I hooked up with a winery who's the oldest family-owned winery in Southern Oregon. We were wine club members first, and then 3 years after, going there every 3 months to pick up our wines. The owners, the youngest sons, are in their 30s and 40s, and the winemakers, been there since 1985. He's a graduate of UC Davis, which is like the Harvard of winemaking. Well, they all were horror fans. And they said, maybe you could get involved with us, paint us a label or something. And I just thought to myself, well, maybe we could do better than that. And we put something else. We put something else on Facebook, and it blew out their website. We said, what about Crystal Lake wines, guys? So it's one of those things that came to me with no energy. It's just been so brilliant, and I get to go and pick out my favorite grapes, and I literally am involved in the whole production and choosing and sampling and picking what I think my fans would love. So yes, Stacy, you would love either the Moonlit Chardonnay or the Camp Blush. And the Camp Blush is got a little bit of fruit, a little bit of, just a little bit of sweet. So people who aren't necessarily serious wine drinkers, but love wine and aren't into the reds yet, will love the Camp Blush and the Moonlit Chardonnay. They pair up really, really well. I'm going to start doing pairings on my website too. They pair up really well with like turkey and, those are the wines. And then the reds, I have my Survivor Syrah, and was very happy about how that came about. It just, people love the Survivor Syrah. It's my personal comfort wine, I say. A little bit of kick, a little bit of spice. And then there's the most recent, which the Oregonian labeled their favorite red wine with pasta, stews, and a vintage horror flick, is called Cabin A Sauvignon.
That's the one I'm going to get, I think, because just you sold me already.
Yeah, I want them all now.
Yeah, I do too. My fiance is such a wine drinker, it's insane. So I'm definitely have to get her a bottle. Well,
it's Cabin A as opposed to Cabin B already.
Right.
Get it?
I was a bartender in a bed and breakfast for a year, and all I did was serve wine. So it's kind of funny. I don't know. I guess it helped me out. But now I know my wines.
And it's wonderful because these are now, I'm not kidding, these are fine wines. I don't need to put my name on them if they weren't. I don't need to do this because honestly, it's a labor of love. Make very little actual money because we sell them between 20 and 24, and that's really, it's only because we have no tax and no overhead here that we can do it that low.
Right.
But I don't want people to get the idea that it's just like a novelty and you shouldn't drink it. It's like, you got to drink it, guys. Don't collect it. I'll sign the bottles for you, and then you can make it into a lamp. But but the key is to actually drink the wine,
I think I'm going to have to get one of each.
Yes.
And trust me when I tell you, there's you won't be disappointed. Like I said, they're really absolutely fabulous varietals. And I'm actually gonna we don't sell in any stores except for Harry and David here locally, because I ship it directly from our winery because we're a boutique winery, and we only do 15,000 cases a year, which is pretty on the low end, very much on the low end. But everything that comes out of there gets, everybody's thumbs up or it doesn't come out. So it's something that I'm proud of. And if I wasn't, I wouldn't be doing it.
Well, that sounds awesome. So go to AdrienneKing.com, get some wine.
Yes.
Yeah. If you don't know how to spell Adrienne King, you can always go to CrystalLakeWines.com.
Well, the last thing we like to do on our shows, we like to do what we call the lightning round, where we ask the PSYCOW 8. It's just 8 quick questions, obviously all based around horror. The first one is, what is the scariest movie of all time in your world? Stacey, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, I think we lost her.
Do we?
Yeah, hold on. Okay, so we're at the 58-minute mark. It's a perfect spot to pick up, though.
Ah!
Are you there?
It wasn't me, I swear to God.
No, I think the internet was going out a little bit, and not a big deal.
I was saying, oh man, they probably think I can't figure out the 8 questions, right?
Well, I'll just start over with that segment. I'll edit that little part out.
Okay, all right.
We like to ask the PSYCOW 8 for our speed round, and the first question is, what is the scariest movie of all time?
The scariest movie for me was The Exorcist.
That is such a common question, or a common answer, because I think everybody feels that way.
Yes.
Yeah, and it has to do for me because, like I said, it's not so much the blood and guts or the vomit or whatever it was. It's just, when it's close to home, and I was raised. I'm a recovering Catholic, as they say. I went to Catholic school.
You and me both.
I was about to say,
yeah. So there you go.
What's the best movie you've seen in the last 5 years?
Oh, God, that's a tough one. Jeez Louise, that's tough. Oh, man. I'll tell you what I love is Across the Universe.
Oh, such a good movie.
That was good. Yes.
And it's totally not horror or anything, but for me, it's what the heck was that?
You've been drinking too much wine?
No. Oh, sweetheart, is that okay? It's my dog, Lucy. Come here, Lucy. She just knocked something over. She's okay. Oh, so the reason I like All Across the Universe, just for people like that, is, I'm a 60s, 70s child, and I grew up on the Beatles, and being a 420 girl, Across the Universe is a very cool kind of place to be. Maybe not the best movie that I've seen in 5 years, but I couldn't come up with anything else.
Right. Well, normally the first one that pops in your head is normally the one that sticks with you for the long haul. So it's a good movie too. I'm not even that big of a Beatles fan, but I have some vintage Beatles records from Germany from the '60s that I treasure.
Wow.
What's your favorite movie that you've worked on so far? That might be kind of obvious.
Yeah, I think it's pretty obvious. Yes.
Friday the 13th Part 2, right?
It would be Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Yeah.
What's the worst horror movie monster of all time?
Oh, Chucky.
Oh, thank you. That is such a...
Oh, you just made his day.
I bitch about Chucky. I'm like, it's a doll. What's your cheesy guilty pleasure movie outside of horror?
Oh, okay. Across the Universe.
What do you think about the remade, recycled, rebooted movies?
I don't like them a bit.
Thank you.
You are a new best friend. Can you come on the show every week?
Yeah, absolutely. No. I mean, seriously, folks, the reason you make a remake is because you can't think of anything new.
You giving birth to the 80s, I'm going to guess it's the 80s, but what's your favorite decade for horror?
Oh, it's got to be the 80s.
Yeah, sure. I think with Friday the 13th being the dawn of the 80s, and that kind of set the whole slasher genre in motion, and you were a huge part of that, I would assume that would be the pick.
Yeah, that has to be the answer for me.
And
I must be true to myself.
Yeah.
What is something you've learned from horror movies?
Losing you. Didn't hear it, Stacey.
Okay. What is something you've learned from horror movies?
Always to turn the light on first.
Good one. Perfect.
Yes. And also just, do not throw a ball of twine when a knife is available.
Right. I don't know why they pick up the banana. Pick up the machete.
Exactly.
Well,
balls of twine are not good weapons.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We had so much fun with you. She didn't feel the same way, Stacey.
And you guys too. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure, Kyle and Stacey. Wait, I missed that. Say what? I missed that.
Oh no, it's going out a little bit. Sorry.
I missed you. I missed what you said. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, what I said was thank you for joining us, and it was quiet because it was going out, and I was like, oh, no, she didn't enjoy her time.
Oh, that's funny. Yes, I'll just be silent here and have you really think hard about what you said wrong. No, guys, you did great, and thank you for making another Friday fabulous.
You have a great night.
All right, guys, stay warm.
Will do.
You too.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.